Welcome to ProjectME, the podcast. I'm your host, Tiffany Carter, the founder of ProjectME, multimillionaire entrepreneur, former TV newscaster, money-making expert, female empowerment speaker, and self-proclaimed office supply addict. My mission is to take the mystery out of making big money. Every week on ProjectME, the podcast, I'll share success tips, strategies, and stories from other entrepreneurs, experts, and millionaires, showing you exactly how you can achieve your most exceptional life. Now let's get to it. Exciting announcement for all of my listeners. I've officially opened my exclusive group, the ProjectME Passive Income Posse, to the public. This group is by application only, so we can keep the group high vibe and spend our time, energy, and expertise only helping those of you who truly want massive success and impact. You get live weekly trainings from me, special guest coaches, and direct access to me and my business partner for all of your questions. To learn more and apply, go to projectmewithtiffany.com, click on Work With Me, and select ProjectME Posse. And of course, any questions, feel free to DM me at ProjectME with Tiffany. Welcome to ProjectME with Tiffany Carter, the podcast and posse. I'm your host, Tiffany, and today we are going to dissect and dish on this whole manifestation thing. I can't handle it any longer if I see one more person making it sound, simple, easy. You can just make billions and bounce around on the beach in Bali. And all you have to do is vision board and think your way there. There is so much more to it. As you guys know, I have been a great student of law of attraction and manifestation for 15 years. But I wanted to bring someone on who wasn't just a student and a practitioner like myself, but someone who actually coaches and has coached many, many, many other women through this process and what it really takes. And she happens to be also a client of mine. It's Sonia Lopez. She helps women find their purpose and generate abundance using her proven manifesting energy blueprint. She's been in this a long time, as I said, both as a student and practicing what she teaches, but then she's packaged all these things that she has learned and put to use and has created a blueprint in order to help you actually get what you want and really be clear on what you want. But this is not going to be your typical manifestation episode whatsoever. It's going to be Tiff style. So buckle up, get ready for your mind to be blown, and help me welcome Sonia Lopez. What's up, girl?
Thank you, Tiffany. Wow, that was an awesome intro. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to geek out on this stuff.
So what I love a lot of things about you, but what I love about you and your mission and where you're at in this manifestation mindset niche, like you're an expert in this, but you really make a point of saying like, hey, in order to really call in the things you want in your life, you're all about the moon and the crystals and the oils and all that stuff too. But there's something much more of great substance that's required for you to be in that true, consistent, manifesting, generating energy. So tell me what it is you see out there that gives you a rash, first of all.
I love it. So I used to be that person, right? When I started on my journey, it was about the vision boards. It was about the affirmations. And some of it worked. And, at the time I wasn't as well versed in this work as I am now. But then what happened is I got sick. I got really sick. I came down with 5 autoimmune conditions. And I was like, what the heck? I'm doing all the things, especially the positive thinking, that gives me a rash. Like the whole belief that you have to think positively. And then you have people out there who are really becoming frustrated by this work because they're not seeing the results, right? So they're putting in all the effort, they're not seeing the results. And what frustrates me is that then you have people that become disenchanted when in fact this work could actually be really powerful if you allow yourself to go deep.
Yeah, I see out there that whole like your vibe attracts your tribe and positive hashtag positive vibes. And I know that when I even a few years ago, because you and I have talked about this, and the listeners know I've had a health crisis as well, so we really relate on that. You know what my belief was because I didn't have any energy to do anything. I was couch bound, so I was scrolling the gram hardcore, and I went, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to attract anything into my life because I'm like basically borderline. I wanted to off myself because I was so miserable. And I just kept seeing like people like rainbows shooting out of my ass. And so tell us about that. Like, do you have to have positive energy and vibes to attract what you want in your life?
So your energy, and this is the other thing, people think that the energy that you resonate, your magnetism, which we do have an auric field. I'm not going to get too deep into the science of energy because we'll really geek out. This will be like another episode. But your auric field has nothing to do with your positive thoughts. It has to do with your subconscious beliefs. So I just did a video actually the other day where I shared how I manifest in my darkest hours. I was in my dark night of the soul when I was sick. And even though in my conscious mind, I kept asking myself, well, how are people going to, nobody's going to love me because I'm sick. My friends don't want to be around me because I'm sick. But I still was manifesting stuff. Like I manifested my puppy, and I manifested my vacation place at the beach. And so that's when I started to really wake up and realize that manifestation is more to do with your subconscious beliefs than it does with your positive thinking. Now, I will say that yes, our thoughts create the belief, but not one thought. It has to be constantly thinking. So you're creating that loop in the brain, and that becomes the belief. So a couple of negative thoughts aren't going to kill your manifesting game.
Or like what, even like a couple of days where you're just like not in flow and not in a good mood. That's not going to kill it either.
That's not going to kill your game. I was in the dark night of the soul, and I manifested these awesome things.
Is it because you still manifested, and those are like big things.
Yeah.
You still manifested those amazing things that you desired. Is it because you had a accumulation effect of like your core beliefs where you still believed you were worthy and you deserved this stuff?
Absolutely. And that's key. This work is about worthiness and deservingness.
So what about people who are listening, who are in that spot, like you mentioned, where it's like, I'm really working on, my thoughts and like being clear about what it is I want to call in. And like you said, like nothing is working. Like I'm not even like, I'm not even bringing in something simple like, like a great parking spot or, $2.
Mm-hmm.
What am I doing wrong? That's what they're thinking, right? What am I doing wrong?
So the first thing I would say to these people is stop beating yourself up, because that then becomes like, that's where I have talk about a rash. I mean, spiritual bypassing with this manifestation and law of attraction is a real thing. And so what ends up happening there is because people start to believe that, oh my God, I'm doing all this stuff and it's not working, their self-worth starts to plummet. Okay? So that's the danger of this, as us as coaches and being responsible in this work, is to remind people that there's nothing to fix. You're not broken. What this work is about let's peel back what deeply rooted beliefs are going on that are blocking you from being magnetic to your manifestations. So what I would say to this person is actually go work with somebody. Because if you're at that level where you really can't even manifest a parking spot, there's a lot of deep stuff going on that you're not conscious of.
I want to give you guys an example because that's what I like, using crazy analogies and examples. And something just came up. So divine download, I'm trusting it. and I don't think you know this about me, Sonia, but I was in that spot. I was probably in my mid to late 20s. And so I'd already gotten introduced to, I had my own, I refer to him as a guru, but a spiritual teacher who's very well known in Los Angeles. And I'd probably say we worked together maybe a year, but he knew I had a high resistance. Okay. Like I'm very, hello, I'm stubborn. Right. So he knew he couldn't go too fast with me on it or my resistance would come up. And I would get sick. I'm not joking you, my entire life. Like I've had mono twice, chickenpox twice. I'd have a sinus infection or walking pneumonia, something every 5 to 6 weeks. My story was I just have a weak immune system because I wasn't breastfed. Ridiculous, I know. But I really would say that to people because people will go, you're sick again. And I know I catch everything. Imagine me saying that. What do you think kept happening, right? I would catch everything because I kept saying it and I really believed it, right? And he worked with, and I said, I started thinking, okay, well, I need to change that script and go, I'm healthy, I'm vibrant, I have a strong immune system, right? Because that's what a lot of manifestation coaches and teachers put out there. And I was doing that, but my brain didn't believe. My brain would go, well, that's not fucking true. Like you do catch everything. And then I'd be like, no, that's not true. This is what's true. And it was like, I felt like almost like I was like schizophrenic and it wasn't working and I was getting frustrated. And then he did some work similar to what you do and peeled it back. And it was a deep-seated subconscious belief that the only time I had permission to rest and nurture myself was when I was sick.
That's amazing. Because that actually happens to a lot of people. And that's where you have to go so deep. You have to go to the theta state. And this is where hypnosis comes into play with the work that I do and the meditations that I offer. Because most of us are trying to manifest from beta and alpha, which is we're awake, we're manifesting from the front part of the brain, which is just thoughts. But our hard drive, our computer hard drive, right? Our subconscious, where our beliefs are really stored and come from, is the subconscious, which is theta state. So you have to drop down to a state where the ego can no longer rule. The ego can no longer take charge in order for you to shift the beliefs.
How do you get to a theta state? That sounds like complex.
It's not as complex as it sounds. Hypnotic meditation.
But it's something you do with someone else.
Yeah. And I have recordings that I offer my clients that they can just listen to before they go to bed and start to, they run. So what you do is you run any particular belief that you have going on, any limiting belief, you run it through the meditation. And over time, the energy that you have around the belief starts to soften and starts to release.
Wow. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Now, I know a lot of people listening, and you guys are going to go, oh my God, Tiffany's busting me right now. A lot of you, when you hear like I should buy, rose quartz to improve my relationship, or I need to, use certain oils or have affirmations. You guys are pretty good about following through and doing that shit. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to following through on doing something like playing like this theta state meditation before you go to bed and doing it, consistently, or doing work, and actually working with a coach on this stuff, you guys might do it once or you don't really follow through. And I see this a lot when it comes to manifestation and mindset work. Why do you think there's the resistance there of doing the stuff that actually fucking works?
I love that you bring this up, and I'll share an example in a minute. But the reason why this happens is because the ego does not want you to change. The ego is that part of the brain that keeps us in fight or flight to try to protect us from threat, right? To try to protect us from a bear eating us, which isn't going to happen. But our nervous system is really outdated, right? So I am also certified in yin yoga, and I teach yin. Yin is a practice, a yoga practice that is meditative, that actually takes you into the subconscious because you hold the poses for a long time. And that's another practice that people can use to start to shift their subconscious. So here's what happens, Tiffany, when people take a class. I say to them, one of the intentions of Yin is to resolve to remain still. Why do we resolve to remain still? Because that's when you're changing the body, right? Now, I time the poses, and I know when the person is about to reach the peak of the pose. The peak of the pose is where the change starts to happen on the subconscious level, right? Here's what happens. I'm timing the pose. I'm watching people hold the pose. The minute they're about to reach the peak of the pose, you know what happens? All of a sudden, they get an itch. They have to fix their shirt. They have to drop down because they get tired. That is the ego is so tricky and so sneaky to get you not to change that it will find everything possible to sabotage. And I see it physically when I teach Yin.
You guys, I'm so fucking busted right now. That is 1,000% me. And in fact, you know what I've said? I'm going to be straight up. And I've done, I would say maybe 5 times Yin, in a class situation. Now, this part was never explained to me. And I'm the type of person as like an Enneagram 6. If you explained that to me, I could have been aware and like caught myself, and like worked through it. But no one explained shit. And I absolutely did that. And then I told myself, this doesn't work. And it was from ego, right? This doesn't work. This is boring as fuck. I didn't burn any calories. I don't feel that much different. I didn't get a good stretch, which none of this is the point of Yin anyway.
Right.
And therefore, I don't go back to that class. So that's probably all of my ego preventing me from doing what I really need to be doing.
Absolutely. And I say to people, it takes at least 3 Yin practices, 3 times for you to go to Yin to start to get over your ego.
Wow.
Yeah, it's powerful.
Wow. So this spiritual bypassing, what do you mean by that? Like, help us understand this term.
So this is exactly what I did, right? And then I got sick. I want to say I didn't get sick because of the spiritual bypassing. I got sick because it was in my, in my karmic curriculum. And I needed to learn a lot of lessons from that. Spiritually bypassing is when you are, like I went through a lot of trauma and I was just doing vision boards and affirmations instead of looking at my trauma and dealing with my trauma. So it's a way of suppressing all of the shadow that we hold as a result of trauma. And by the way, I want to say that we all have trauma. If you were a child who even had great parents, you have some trauma. Because the fact that maybe one day when you were little, your parents said no to you or they dismissed you, that can create a form of trauma in our little minds, right? Because we're like, oh, they don't care about us. So everybody has trauma. People think trauma is a bad thing. It's actually a good thing because it allows us to, if we're willing to look at it, to peel back these layers and to become whole and more magnetic to our manifestations. So spiritually bypassing is us using these sort of cures, external cures, to suppress any inner shadow or inner limiting beliefs or inner pain that we don't want to look at.
Do you think that most people are aware that they have deeper stuff in there, and have some glimpse of an awareness that they're probably avoiding it through spiritual bypassing? Or do you think it's totally subconscious?
That's a great question. I'll tell you this, based on the assessment that I give people, the manifesting energy blueprint, that has 7 levels of energy, and level 3 is the level where people are living their life rationalizing. 85% of people who take this assessment, 85% of people who take the assessment rate a level 3. Their level 3 is their norm. So that tells me that they might have some level of consciousness that they're spiritually bypassing, but for the most part, they're so busy rationalizing all the crap in their life that they're not really fully aware of it.
Yeah, that used to be me. And believe me, you started poking at it because, like I said, I had a spiritual coach. He would think he's like you, where he's wise. Like, no offense to those of you listening who are like 23 and teaching manifestation, but there's something that is important about the number of years of practice, your own education and working with people. So he was very wise. And he knew what I was doing, but if he poked me too far, it's like when you call an addict, they flip out. So,
Absolutely.
I was always busy. My whole line was, I don't have time. I'm busy. I'm busy. I'm busy. I'm busy. And that was my way of avoiding this stuff. And I would do everything he said to me that seemed, I'd do all the easy shit. It's kind of like, when you watch your kids, like they save their vegetables for last, but they eat all the other shit first. It's like, I would do the vision board. I would do affirmations. I would read the books. I would even do like workbook exercises he gave me. I would do journaling, some meditation, but I resisted that a lot because that was stillness. Yeah, because but then I could still tell myself the lie that I'm working on it.
That's great.
So I want you guys to pick up on that. Like, I see you guys do this with business shit too. You're telling yourself you're doing market research by scrolling. You are going to Google University. You're doing, this, that, and the other, but you're not really going for it.
So I love that you say this because, again, it goes back to energetics. So when people generally have a lot of level 1 and 2 energy, we all have a level 1 is a victim. It's somebody who, poor me, why is this happening to me? I can't believe this happened. Level 2 is more anger, resentment, frustration, right? We all have levels of that because energy fluctuates, and depending on what's going on in our lives, we might drop down to that. But people who really resonate at these levels are the people who do this. And again, this is subconsciously. This is your wiring subconsciously. They'll be like you, like, I'm doing all the things externally, but your energy resonating is going, I'm a victim. Let me prove I need proof from the universe that I'm a victim. So you'll do all the outer things, but the energy you're resonating is calling in like, well, look, you see, I'm right. Nobody's helping me. That used to be me, by the way. I was the person because I'm such an independent, like I'll do it myself. And then I started to like, well, you know what? I'm going to start asking for help. But I have a deep-rooted belief that nobody's going to help me. So I would ask for help. I would do the external stuff and then nobody would help me. And I was like, oh, you see? Nobody helps me.
It's like that self-fulfilling prophecy.
Absolutely. And that comes from your deep-rooted belief. You can do all the external things, but if your deep-rooted belief is resonating, that's the magnetic part, right? If your magnetism going out is, well, universe, I need you to prove to me that people aren't going to help me. That's what you're going to get.
Even if you're saying an affirmation 1,000 times a day and rubbing crystals and have an altar and all this shit, you're saying if at the root, whether you're aware of it or not, that core belief system is ruling it all.
Absolutely.
How can people tap in to these core beliefs? Some they might be aware of. Like some of you listening might go, well, I know one of mine, like I'm not, worthy or whatever. But for this is what I say, for every one belief you're aware of, there's like 5 that are subconscious.
Oh yeah.
So how do they uncover those subconscious beliefs in there so they can start working on them?
Start taking it to the next level. So I have this belief that nobody helps me. Why do I have this belief? Where did I pick up this belief? How old was I when I picked up this belief? And then start to question it. Like, how true is this belief? Right? Can I 100% know that this belief is true? And then you take it to the next level, which is, I say to people, look for proof otherwise. So when have there been times, because the brain's bias is toward negativity. So it is going to scan for negative stuff all the time. We have 60 to 70,000 thoughts per day, of which I think 65 are negative, 85 are repetitive. So it's going to look for the negative, right? So look for the times that you have been supported, that people have helped you. And that's how you start to rewire the belief.
So you can, this is so, you guys, I always say like attracts like. It's just so funny because, I said in the beginning, Sonia is one of my private clients, and we both had a health crisis, and we both had some similar core beliefs because I'm wired the same. And I have that belief, and it shows up in my business, and I'm still working on it because my ego can be really tough, which is, it's really hard. Now mine more from nobody helps me, no one cares, I have to do it all myself. Now it's morphed to, well, people will help me, but no one cares as much as me. Like, well, I've gone down. So guess what has happened? I mean, I had someone totally take advantage and screw me in my business last year. I end up getting like resumes from people where, I know they're just not a good fit. And I have to catch myself because I'm like, see, there aren't any good people out there.
Yeah, because that's what you're calling in, right? But I love what you said about doing the work, because even if you reach to the next level, Tiffany, which you will, you're always going to have a next level that you have to work on. So this work is never ending.
Oh, no, it's our life's work.
If you think that you're going to get your manifestation and that's the end, no, there's a next level, sister. And then you're going to have beliefs around that next level that you're going to have to work to release.
So for someone to do the exercise of, let's go back in history and look at evidence. Like, we'll use this example, like, no one helps me, or, well, no one cares. And you start creating like a running list of going back in your past and looking for evidence, whether you had a neighbor who brought you chicken soup when you were sick. Mm-hmm. And I mean, you guys are longtime listeners know, like, I had a pretty hardcore childhood. So I could easily, but I had to work really hard on retraining my mind. I could easily go, well, God, there's no evidence there. Because that's what my ego wants to say. Well, there's no fucking evidence there. It's right. Like, no, of course there is. And then I think of, like, I had a nanny, like a granny nanny.
Love it.
She always helped me. My grandparents always helped me. I had some amazing teachers in school who cared and helped me. I mean, I could keep going on and on. I have a long list.
And so when you do that list, you're actually going to start to bring up the feelings, right? Of like, oh, those good feelings. And that's where your brain starts to rewire. Because remember, rewiring the brain and all this magnetism stuff comes from the chemicals that are being released in the brain. And that's why I also love including embodiment work in this manifesting work.
As you said that, I just, because I take notes whenever I interview anyone, because I learned so much from all you guys. And I put embodying the belief that it's possible.
Right.
So this can be a challenging one for people. I want to use money because money's so powerful. And I think it's on most of your minds right now, where it's like, I want to call in more like actual abundance. Like, I want to call in more cash, more money into my life, whether it's through my business, whatever it is. But maybe you're in debt. So it's like, well, how am I supposed to, Sonia, embody the belief that I'm like, hashtag wealth magnet, or, something like that? How am I supposed to embody that belief when I keep getting, all these crazy credit card bills?
That's a great question. Embody the belief. So you got to start small, because if there's a big gap from what you're wanting to manifest to where you're at in your belief system, there's no way you're going to manifest $1 million if you're in debt. And your belief is, I can't manifest $1 million. So I would say start small. Start Maybe it's not money because you might have some energy around money and there would have to be some work to be done around what your money story is. But maybe it's looking for evidence in where in your life is there abundance. So maybe there's love abundance. People love you and you can feel that. Or maybe there's food abundance. You can look at, can put food on the table and you start to shift it slowly because this all has to do with the nervous system. And if your nervous system, all of a sudden you throw it, $1 million, like it's going to be shocked if you're not ready to receive it. So imagine yourself as a container that needs to expand in order for the good stuff to come in.
Oh, I love that. Like, I'm sure some of you have seen people write checks to themselves, and there's some manifestation, influencers out there that are big on that. And people write like $100 million. That shit doesn't work.
Yeah, I've done that. It doesn't work.
It doesn't work. And so what I did with that, and without, having known you, I did that before I started ProjectME. For my first year of business, I wrote a check to myself for a number that I truly believed was possible. Now, your number in your first year of business or whatever it is, maybe it's a bonus check from your career, or maybe it's the number of patients you treat or people you help. It doesn't have to be money. So when I wrote a check to myself, I did that exercise and I wrote $1 million. Now I have evidence of, I know how to make $1 million. I have millions in the bank, but not with ProjectME with Tiffany Carter yet. Right? Like in terms
That's
of,
a great point.
in terms of revenue, it's more like at like $500,000 a year. It's not at $1 million. So that didn't work for me. So what did work is the number of women that I help create, successful businesses and make money doing what they love. That felt good to me.
Yes. And that's where you have to take it. So that's where you have to go. You have to go to a number or a space that stretches your container enough that you feel a little discomfort, but doesn't shock your nervous system. Because if it shocks your nervous system, your subconscious won't take it. It won't allow it.
I love that we're talking about this because what you're saying is you have whatever it is, whether it's calling love into your life, it's a new house. Like I know you recently remodeled. You know what? Let's use this as an example because you recently, and you guys first off need to follow Sonia on Instagram. What's your Instagram again?
Sonia Lopez Coach. Sonia Lopez Coach.
Okay. So she's on Instagram at Sonia Lopez Coach, but she shares a lot of her manifestations, of course, also with tips and lessons and stuff like that, but in her Instagram stories. But you recently had your kitchen remodeled into this gorgeous, luxurious kitchen. How did you manifest something like that?
Well, that was always in my vortex. I knew I wanted to redo my kitchen. We've been in our house for 25 years and it was the last thing to get remodeled. And I just had to believe that this is going to happen. And I put it out there. I mean, I have awesome stories to share about manifesting crazy stuff, but big things too. And I just knew. And so we called up one construction person, and they were way out of our price range. I knew. So I make my list of what I want, to manifest and what I want to pay for things. Right.
Oh, interesting.
So, yeah.
That's cool.
Case, yeah. In this case, I was like, this is the budget. This is, what I'm willing to pay. And we reached out I said to my husband, I'm like, what about the guy that did our basement? I wonder if he does kitchens. Because the one guy that first came was way over budget.
We've all had those guys come and you're like, what the hell? Yeah. I could build a whole new house for this.
And my husband is like Mr. Left Brain, who's doesn't believe in this stuff, even though we've manifested amazing things. But he's like, no, it's not going to happen. These people, they charge a lot. That's what kitchens go for. And I'm like, you just wait. And so we called our basement guy and he came and he gave us the estimate, which was under budget.
Wow. So did it get close to matching the number that you were desiring to pay?
It was like $5,000 less than what
Wow.
But the cool thing was that this all happened during this pandemic. So they started the demo during the pandemic, and my husband's all worried because, we didn't have a kitchen, and it was obnoxious to not have a kitchen during a pandemic where you can't go out to eat. And And I said, don't worry, everything's going to work out fine. Because then he got a call that the cabinets weren't going to be in on time. So the workers all did their great job and everything on time, but the cabinets weren't coming in. And I said to him, don't worry, everything's going to work out. And that's, the point where you are so deeply rooted in the belief that everything's going to work out, that you're not attached to any outcome, and the surrender happens with ease.
But what if you have so much recent evidence, like concrete evidence, that the shit just doesn't work out? How in the hell do you get around that?
Then I would say check in with yourself, your magnetism. And our magnetism comes from our self-worth. Start saying no.
Saying no back to those thoughts.
Start saying no to anything in your life, any shit that you've been saying yes to, because a lot of women that I coach are people pleasers.
Oh, God.
And that makes your self-worth drop. So you watch and you start to set boundaries of what is a hell yes and what is a hell no. And it can be small. It doesn't have to be like, this big thing. I had a client recently who was looking for a brownstone in New York, and her realtor kept trying to take her to all these places. And she's like, no, I have my list. And she didn't settle. And even though she took her to one that had 8 out of 10 things on her list, but my client still knew she had to say no, because when you say no, you are telling the universe, I know and I trust that what I'm wanting to manifest, you're going to bring to me as long as I stand in my power. So guess what happened? She kept saying no. And she finally said no to the last one. And within 2 days, she found the exact place with everything on her list that she wanted.
Yeah, because when we say no, we're making it extra clear to the universe of what we do want.
And you become more magnetic.
So go ahead.
This is all about making sure you're deeply rooted in your power. So in the example of my kitchen, even though my husband was worried, I wasn't. And I'm the higher energy. So, when the higher vibration, that's the energy that rules. The cabinets came 2 days later, like from the day that they said it's going to be weeks. And then they said, okay, it's going to be on the 7th. And then they ended up coming on the 9th.
I love that you said the, that higher magnetism, that higher energy rules, because there's a lot of people listening who are like, I live in like the negative Nancy house, or, my significant other, thinks all this stuff is shit. So you don't have to have everyone around you believe in your dreams, believe in your business, believe in the things you want to manifest. You're enough is what you're saying.
In fact, Tiffany, if you are the person who is wanting validation and who is wanting people to believe in you and believe in your dreams, that tells me that you are not in your self-worth.
I 1,000% agree.
When you're truly in your self-worth, you don't give a shit what anybody thinks.
Preach it. The zero fuck zone, you guys.
Zero fucks.
Why do you think that I'm so big? And I tell you, and I'm not saying like you get there overnight. You have to do this work. But when I do watch you guys get to that zero fuck zone, like you said, it's that magnetism. It pulls the things that you want into you. And I believe it also repels the things you don't want.
1,000%. What's not meant for you won't come to you.
Because so many, and I see this a lot more with women, but men have this too. But it is the fear of what will they think? What is, bitchy Aunt Susie going to think of me? Doing all this stuff on Instagram stories, or that, that mean girl Tanya from high school, and now I'm doing network marketing and she's going to like tell everyone I'm in a pyramid scheme. Like what, what do you have to say to people who have a lot of those thoughts and it's preventing them from really showing up?
So my little tip that I use for that is I'm like, do they pay my bills? Because if they don't pay your bills, why are you giving a fuck?
And why do people care?
Well, because we're conditioned to be part of a tribe. And if we feel like we don't belong, then that hurts our feelings. So we want to feel like we belong. We want to be liked. We want to be accepted. And so the beauty of it is, though, is that once you start to do this work to peel back all that bullshit and you start to step into your power and your wholeness, you become a magnet for all the things that you desire.
That's when I get asked the question, like a lot of people, including like friends of mine, acquaintances of mine who are extremely successful in the online space, have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of followers and, are so to speak, like Insta famous, but they'll go, where the fuck did you come from? Like you came on the scene and you blew up really quickly. And I'll say, number one, I was already an entrepreneur for 10 years. So this entrepreneurship game isn't new to me, nor is, coaching. I'm very experienced. But the personal branding part was new to me. But really what it is, and I wasn't zero fuck zone when I started. I was 75%, but I wasn't 100%. When I got to that 100%, my business blew up.
I love it. But I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm sure you did a ton of work too on yourself and continue to do so to just continue to elevate.
I did work with with my business coach, and I also did work with a spiritual coach. Oh yeah, because I was like, I did not, their core belief, like you said, the core belief, I didn't want to show up as 100% me, because if I was rejected or not successful as 100% me, oh God, that really felt vulnerable and scary.
I get it. I was the same. And that's why I say to people, when you asked at the beginning about like, what do people do when they can't get past work, invest in yourself, invest in your growth. Because when you hit an upper limit, I don't care how many books you read, how many oils you put on, how many workshops you take, it all becomes self-help because you need somebody to take you to the next level to dig that stuff up.
Now, what about, I know I'm reading your minds right now. Are you guys like going, oh my God, Tiffany is so weird. For people who are like, yes, I know I need to work with someone like Sonia. Like I know I need this help. And then they go right into, but money's tight right now. Ooh, I was laid off because of COVID. Oh, I'm sure she's expensive and I can't swing that right now. Isn't that just the ego trying to prevent you from growth?
1000%. It happened to me when I've hired, the recent coaches I've worked with, including you. And I'm somebody who's abundant and who can manifest. And I went through that. That's just, and I love it. So I talk about fear as it being, is it the good fear or is it excitement without the breath? Right? So I say to people, because money is a big thing, and I understand that we're in a time right now, that people are wanting to be cautious. But I had a mentor once say to me, if money is your biggest worry, you don't have any worries. Because there are 1,000 ways to create money.
Exactly.
And he was right. So I say to people, check in with your fear. If you're feeling really loud voices in your head that are like, oh my God, I don't have the money, I can't do this, that's your ego. Okay? If you're feeling like, oh my God, I can't believe this, I want to do it, but like that excitement without the breath, that's your intuition saying, take a leap.
I think it's easier for someone with all the work you've done to tap into that. But for people who haven't done as much work and can't necessarily access that feeling, because even when you said it, I know I'm like, you guys can't see me, but I'm holding like my chest area, because that's where I get it a lot. I know exactly what you're talking about, but I didn't used to be able to access that. And if there was a number someone told me, I don't care how fucking amazing the person was, I don't care how much money I had in my bank. I did it with my health coach. And I think she was, I think she was like $5,000 a month or something like that for 3 months. That's 15 grand. I had the money in the bank and I needed help, and I knew I needed help. But when she told me that number, I instantly went, and I said something to her like, but I could take a luxury vacation with that money. Or I said something like that. And she goes, but you can't even get off your couch right now. Like, thank God she coached me through that. That's why I tell you guys, when someone tells you they can't afford it, this is your job to coach them, because if she didn't coach me through that and just left me there as going, oh, I think that's crazy or whatever. But I'm trying to think if I was able to tap in at that moment. No, I don't even think, because I was so messed up, brain fog and exhausted. Truthfully, I couldn't tap into the excitement without the breath, where it's like, okay, I need to take the leap. So how else can we look at it? It's like, how else can we look at it? It's like, if you've applied to work with someone and you're on a call with them, or you've read the whole sales page or something like that, and you're being pulled towards it, it's for a fucking reason, right?
Right. Absolutely. It's that you're being guided. I always say you're here, you showed up to this space for a reason. And so maybe something they can start to ask themselves, these people that are, wanting to take the leap, but are really fearful and can't even understand their fear, is ask yourself, how much longer am I willing to stay in this pain that I'm in?
Yeah.
Is it worth it? Or can I picture myself making this investment for myself to heal anything that needs to be healed in order to elevate a little bit more in my life, or a lot more?
Because I think it comes down to self-worth too, like investing in yourself, like all these people pleasers, I'm a recovering
I can't
people
afford
pleaser.
it.
Yeah. I mean, I had the money in the bank, more than enough, and I still said it. So it's not about whether you have the money in the fucking bank. Tons of people I work with use a credit card.
And I say to people, and I'll tell you the story of how when I went through my coach certification program, that was $10,000 at the time, 11 years ago. And I was a stay-at-home mom making no money.
Okay.
I say to people, if you really want something, don't talk yourself out of it, because you will find a way. We are resourceful. So if you really truly want something, and that's something you need to sit with and really ask yourself the question, like, am I willing to stay in this pain? How much longer am I willing to live this life that is not fulfilling me? Ask yourself those questions, and you will find a way. And when you take the first step, the universe loves that shit. The universe starts to co-create with you the minute this just happened to a client of mine who signed up with me. She invested the money in herself, and the next day, the same amount came in through another door.
Yep.
So take the time to understand that if you really want something, you will find a way. If you don't, you will find an excuse. When I decided to become a life coach after working with a life coach myself, which, by the way, I didn't have the money to invest at the time. This was a million years ago when my mom had passed away, and I was looking for help. I was looking to really heal my relationship with my brother, and I hired a life coach. And then I decided that, I love this. I love how working with this person, the investment I made was like 500 times my return on investment, because my life took off after working with him. And I wanted to help people achieve that. So I looked into coaching programs to get certified. And the one I loved was $10,000. And my husband was like, we're not taking $10,000 out of our account for you to go, fairy tales and rainbows and butterflies. Right. And I was like, I am going to find a way. So I started making jewelry. I started to do all these little things to make money, and it started to happen enough to put a down payment.
Because the universe, you're putting in the effort, and it matches you at that effort, saying, hey, she's putting it and she wants it. The universe co-creates with you wherever you're at.
Absolutely. And then a friend of mine offered me to help her in her business part-time. So all these little synchronicities started to happen the minute I took the leap. I didn't know. And so that's where I say to people, don't worry about the how, because it will reveal itself to you when you take the leap. But the leap cannot be taken from fear. It has to be taken from that deep-rooted belief of, I know this is going to work out. And yeah, there'll be that feeling of like, ugh, I don't know how, right? We always want to know how. And then what happened was my husband saw my determination and he gave me the rest as a loan.
Because he saw, wow, my wife really wants this. This is really important to her.
Absolutely.
It's not just some, like fairy tale shoot from the hip thing. Like she really wants it.
Absolutely. And I was willing to pay for it. I knew that I had enough I was making the jewelry. I had the little part-time gig. So I was able to put the down payment, and then the rest I was just going to, in my mind, I'm like, I'll just start getting clients and pay it off. But my husband came in and said, I'll give you the loan and then you pay me back, or pay the family fund back.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what ended up happening. And so as I was going through my program, I was doing coaching, and that's how I was able to pay off everything. But that's how it worked out.
I think the hardest thing for people is exactly what you coach people on, is getting to the belief. And to get to the belief, you guys, like, picture it in layers, like peeling layers of an onion or like an artichoke. To get to the stage where you believe, we've got to help remove those limiting beliefs that are covering it.
Absolutely.
Because you can't bypass those and try to just get to the belief and force yourself going, oh, I believe I'm a millionaire. I believe I'm a successful coach. I believe I'm in the best shape of my life. Like, and then now you're trying to bypass all those layers are still there. That's why it doesn't work.
It's like you're putting glitter on shit. Honestly, that's the bottom line.
It's still sparkly, but it still smells like poo. I want to touch on timing. I call it half surrenders. When we say we want something, whether it's like calling in, the love of our life, or calling in money or clients, or, success in whatever area of your life. And we say we want that. And we even, are very specific, because you should be, specific with a lot of with what you want. And you tell yourself you're letting go, but then like a week goes by, nothing happens. Maybe even some like shitty things happen. Then 2 weeks go by, still nothing happens. And you start getting impatient. You're like, well, fuck, this isn't working. This manifestation thing isn't working. It's not coming. So what about this whole timing thing?
Okay, so I raised my hand for the audience because, hello, impatient over here. So I am very impatient. And so the timing topic is awesome because, and I love that you said maybe even bad things happen, because when we are building the muscle of self-worth and magnetism, the universe will test you. Not because it wants to hurt you or it wants to, it's mean, it's a mean universe, but because it wants to know that you are for sure in your high self-worth and that you are truly committed to your manifestation. And you do that by becoming magnetic, being in your high self-worth. So you'll get the little tests like the guy who meets, 8 out of 10 things on your list. But why are you settling for 8 out of 10? Right? So sometimes bad things will happen too that will make you drop into victim. I'm that person who has, high level 1 when I'm in stress, my level 1 goes up, right? And so I know that about myself now, and now I'm able to catch it and shift it. So the timing thing is just a matter of understanding the energetics behind it. When you are truly in trust and in faith, you're not going to drop into any of that victim energy, because you know that your manifestations will come to you. And that sometimes there's other things that we need to learn along the way before we reach that manifestation, or that manifestation reaches us.
So when people go, I'm not getting more clients, I'm not enrolling people in my network marketing company, and my goal was X many, 6 people this month, and I have like 1 or I have 0, and this isn't, and now this isn't working. I put out there, I wanted, 6 for this month and it's not happening. what can they do to shift back into a magnetic energy space?
Unblock it. And so I have the meditation and journal prompts that people can use and start to unblock, because what's happening there is you're starting to drop back into your victim energy, and then you start to resonate that energy, and that creates a block. So just keep unblocking, keep going a little deep in that to release the energy you feel when things aren't happening in your timeline. So that you can start to, again, it's all about our container, right? So if you're contracting because, oh my God, I'm not getting the people in my time, you're contracting, you're not allowing in. So let's unblock in order to, again, open up.
Yeah, and here's the thing, you guys, like how Sonia said earlier, like look for past evidence. Think of all the stuff that's happened in your life, good and bad. Wasn't the timing of it great? Now, I know there's always some of you that go, well, I lost my father and that timing wasn't great. Well, okay, you can go down that path. I lost my dad too, right before my 25th birthday, and he got cancer and then died 6 weeks later. No, that there's some things that just happen because that was the path. That's not the shit I'm talking about. I'm talking about finding the house, the shitty people you dated. You were supposed to date them in order to appreciate the good people, or because you learned something about yourself. Even the health crisis I know you had and I had, that was supposed to happen. I would not have listened in any other way. The universe, God, had to stop me dead in my tracks to force me to be still. And thank God it was something that was, so to speak, curable and not where I was just, offed from the planet.
Right.
So look for that, right? Look for that evidence of
because that's another muscle that we build, right? Our spiritual muscle. I know there's people probably listening out there in the deepest darkness hours of their life, and they're saying "F you." I was there, and even with having done all this work, I still dropped to that level of that dark night of the soul that I don't wish on anybody. But now, like you said, now I still held a deep belief. It's so weird because even though I was super, feeling terrible, there was just a belief, and I just kept hanging on to that and looking for like the little snippets of goodness in my life during that time. And I truly believe that that's what got me out of it. But now I look back on that period, and same as you, I've had a lot of dark periods, from when my mom died up until now. And sometimes I'll sit back and reflect, and I'm like, oh my God, all these pieces of the puzzle totally go together. Totally go together. So, I know that a lot of people, maybe they want to see the black and white of it, but sometimes there is this muscle that we need to build, that is the trust muscle of like, okay, I can't see the full picture, but let me just trust in what is unfolding right now.
Yeah, I mean, I just shared in my Instagram stories, I just celebrated my 200th podcast episode. 3 months of podcasting, 2 episodes a week with a top producer, with a coordinator, with me, a professionally trained broadcaster. I had 500 fucking downloads. That's it.
Amazing.
And I was like, not that I thought I was going to be famous, but I was like, oh my God. And I had fewer downloads than other people I knew who were, not to be rude, but not very good at it. Right. So I'm like, oh my God, what the hell is going on? And I had a day where I dropped into like I should quit because, it costs about $100 an episode. Okay. For full transparency for me to do this show. So it's like, this is fucking crazy. I'm like, I need to monetize this thing. And only for a day did I drop in, because I've done all this work. I was able to come back out and go, I know that things take time and there's a compound effect that has to build. Just like when you want to lose weight and you work out and you eat right and you're not really losing much weight, but then all of a sudden 3 months later, you're down 8 pounds. Very similar. So I knew that because I had evidence that I tapped into from my past. Then at the 4.5 month mark, my show really took off.
And I love that story because, especially for entrepreneurs, I've been there. Like, oh my God, do I give up? But we all go through it. right? And it's almost like the you're 3 feet from gold. Like,
Yeah.
you ever see that meme? The guy's
Yeah.
like chiseling away and he gives up 3 feet from when he was about to find gold.
That most people give up before then, just like your yin yoga.
Yes. Yes.
Most people give up at that pivotal point where it's about to
Absolutely.
turn and provide you with the beauty, which don't think this is not lost on me, folks, of the message that I'm getting about the fucking yin yoga.
I love it.
I'm like, oh, I didn't really all of a sudden get itchy.
No, you didn't. Or you didn't need to fix your hair or your shirt.
Dying.
But
Dying.
yeah, it's like how, and again, coming back to self-love and self-worth, just look at yourself as somebody that you love, and how, at what level would you commit to your dreams? Because
Yeah.
when you give up, that's you saying, I don't believe in myself.
Yeah. Would
I
you
don't believe in
tell
my
your
dreams.
sister, your best friend, your own kid who had dreams, would you tell them, don't put your all into it. Like, don't invest in it. Like, it probably won't work anyway. Would you fucking say that to them? I hope not.
No, hell no. Yeah. So it's, how do we talk to ourselves? And again, um, trusting all of it,
Hmm.
trusting all of it. Even,
You're so incredible. I just had to say that.
thank you. Thank you. Even the tests, even the darkness, it's all part of the journey. Manifesting is not an end result thing. This is why I don't share a lot about my material manifestations, and I could, because I've had a lot of good ones and really cool, and they've come in really cool ways. But the reason why I don't is because that's the icing on the cake. The external things are the icing on the cake, but true manifestation is an inside job.
Yeah, it's hard. People need to see evidence. That's why I've
Yeah.
coached you to say, like, show us, because people just need to see evidence because it helps build their muscle.
Absolutely.
Because it's hard for us to see unless we were like, I can see shifts in you because, I'm coaching you, I'm close to you, but like a stranger who's
Right.
can't necessarily see the shifts unless you lost a bunch of weight or you gained a bunch of weight or,
Right.
there was something physical. It's hard to see it. But I know you guys know, like, you've made changes in your life and maybe you have people say to you, God, you look younger, or you seem like something's different about you, or you've
Mm-hmm.
thought it about someone else. They're doing that inside work.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Or you seem
But
so happy lately, or, something like that.
yeah, I say to people, just you're manifesting every day. Look for the little miracles that you've manifested. Look for the little things, the little signs. I think I shared this with you the other day. I came down to my vacation place at the beach here, and it's an island. It's a vacation island, and not very many things are closed. And I love my green tea lattes. So I was like, I wonder if Starbucks will be open. And I was like, who am I kidding? They're probably closed. But I took a ride anyway with faith that I'm going to get my green tea latte. Well, sure enough, they have this little window open that you can walk through and get your Starbucks. So to me, that was like, oh my God, I manifested a Starbucks. That's so awesome. I came down here, everything's closed, but Starbucks.
That's so cool. And she bought two. She's like, she buys two of her lattes at a time so that she can make sure she has one for the next morning. I'm
Absolutely. Yeah.
dying. And speaking of lattes, you guys, you know that for you taking 90 seconds and writing a 5-star written, sincere iTunes review of the show, I treat you to a coffee drink of your choice. If you're not a coffee drinker, then some kind of a smoothie or a juice. So make sure you go do that. Include your name and or your Instagram handle, and then just DM me and let me know. When you press submit on your review, it might look like it disappears on iTunes. It's just because it takes them about 48 hours to review it for any kind of bullying or, vulgarity. That's why you don't see it. So don't freak out. Just DM me so I can treat you to that. Also, if you love this episode, take a screenshot right now, share it on Instagram, tag me at ProjectME with Tiffany, and then also tag Sonia it's Sonia Lopez Coaching, right? Or is it Sonia Lopez Coach?
Coach.
Sonia, SONIALOPEZ coach. If you're multitasking and that's way too much for you to remember, just tag me at Project Me with Tiffany, and then I will make sure I tag Sonia and share it in my stories. And like fun fact, if you're looking to grow your Instagram, you want to have accounts that are much bigger than yours, sharing your stuff and tagging you. It helps with the algorithm. So if you really want to have a selfish little bump in your followers, you'll take a screenshot of this episode, share it, tag me at Project Me with Tiffany, tag Sonia Lopez at Sonia Lopez Coach, and then we will both share it and we'll know that you guys love this episode. So, Sonia, let us know, number one, how can people book or work with you or look into it more on understanding their manifesting energy blueprint?
So they can find me at sonialopezcoaching.com. If they're interested in understanding their manifesting energy blueprint, they can definitely sign up for a call with me. And that's also on my website. And if they want that freebie, that is the hypnotic meditation to cut any energy blocks and any cords that are blocking you from your manifestations. It also comes with journal prompts to help you guide you through the work. They can find that on my landing page on my website.
And that's sonialopezcoaching.com.
.com. Yep.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, you guys are going to want to get that freebie because this is that meditation she was talking about. Plus it comes with a workbook. Oh my God, you're going to shit. You guys are not going to believe this. And this is genuine. You can't see my face, but I know Sonia can. I just fucking manifested something.
What did you manifest?
I just start to cry. And it's so fucking small. You guys are going to die. Those of you who, I'm dying. I probably
it's crazy.
Video of this after. So some of you are really good about following my crazy Instagram stories. Quarantine life like gets really old, and I'm looking to have more fun and play in my life, like trying to figure out ways I can do that at home. And so, of course, I had a few glasses of wine, and I found this amazing site where they sell fun pool toys. I don't know if you saw this on my stories. And I like asked you guys to vote. I'm like, I'm one glass of wine away from buying this crazy thing. Like it's
I remember.
huge. It's crazy. And it's $199. So I was like, oh, my money stuff. It was like, oh, that's like frivolous. Like, come on. And there's a lot of people out of work. You could buy people's families meals with that. I went down a whole thing. So I took it to the gram and like hundreds of you voted for me to buy it. And there's like one asshole who said no, but like everyone else said to buy it. And I bought it, and Mike, my fiance, follows my stories, and he's like, oh, fuck, what are we going to do with that thing? That's giant. That's going to take up like most of our pool. And I was like, I don't know. I just like really wanted it. Well, I knew it arrived 2 days ago in a box, and since it's big, right, it has to be blown up. And Mike was like not super pleased with this purchase because basically it's another, where are we going to put it? Thing. I just looked up and he has it blown up and it's floating in the pool, and he knows I have a view. He knows I have a like clear shot of a gorgeous view from my office.
Yeah.
This fucking thing, you guys.
That is amazing. I love it.
And now how excited am I? And it's here. And I didn't have to do shit. I didn't have to blow it up.
Get up and go float in the pool.
That is so cool. And see, that's the other thing when you listen to, podcasts like mine, when you follow people like Sonia who are in that, that manifesting energy, that's contagious even through the screen.
1000%. And I always talk about collective energy too in my coaching groups. Because when we are a collective, right, we're all connected. So when you're in the energy, you become more magnetic, you manifest things quicker. That's why I always say to people, make sure, you have a tribe of people who are like-minded.
I mean, I know awesome. For a fact, and also we're recording this on a Friday. Mike has an actual job, where he has to like go into a place of work. And he never takes like days off unless we're traveling. And he is off today because little Chubbs, the puppy, had to have an eye surgery for something. So that's all. A lot of things had to happen for me to have this crazy ass float in the water, and I'm dying because it really. Guys are gonna die when you see it in my stories.
You gotta take pictures.
It's like an epic piece of art, and it was it's so worth. This was worth $199 to me, without a doubt.
I love it.
I loved having you on. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us and keeping it real and having us all see like a different perspective when it comes to attracting the things that we want in our life. Like, this is where it's at, people. Go follow Sonia at Sonia Lopez Coaching on Instagram.
Sonia Lopez
Coach. And then on her website, go get that damn freebie. And that's SoniaLopezCoaching.com. And of course, do that screenshot, share the episode, pass this along so you guys, whether it's a pool float, remodeling your kitchen, a beach house, hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? Like whatever it is, like I'm manifesting. Sonia has these such cute gold sparkle glasses. I'm manifesting those. Like, why not? It doesn't have to be, some grand thing. Well, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me, Tiffany.
I enjoyed all of this. And you guys, love you as always, wishing you great health, wealth, and worth. And we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please write a 5-star review on iTunes. Not only will this make me super happy, but it will allow more listeners to find our special show. Simply help me help others.